I find this hilarious. Brian Kilmeade is going to go after Joe Biden here and accidentally make him sound way more awesome than he is.
President Biden's not just picking up where his old boss left off. He is blowing Obama's progressive agenda out of the water. I'm not kidding. Look at what he's done so far. $1.9 trillion stimulus chock full of state subsidies and new entitlements. If your jaw is still on the ground, keep it there, because he got a $3 trillion infrastructure plan all ready to go. Some say it's going to be $5 trillion, even though I held up 10 fingers, just mean it 5. Then he's going to blow up the filibuster, something he's promised he'd never do, to solidify his Democratic power base with H.R. 1. That's going to be a voting thing. So what's after that? Attack the Second Amendment. That was yesterday. Overregulate the energy industry. That was day one. Make D.C. the 51st state. They're talking about that now. Joe Biden wants to change every aspect of American life. I'm not kidding. The way we travel, the way we work, the way we run our businesses, the way we vote, the way we educate our kids. For historical context, we need to go back to the 60s with Lyndon Johnson and the 1930s with FDR.
Restoration calls, however, not for changes in ethics alone. This nation is asking for action, and action now.
Ours is a time of change, rapid and fantastic change, bearing the secrets of nature.
Johnson's Great Society revamped healthcare, education, welfare, and civil rights. FDR's New Deal overhauled our infrastructure and banking systems, established things like Social Security. Biden's agenda will try to combine the agendas of both presidents and go further left than any administration has gone before. Remember when Ronald Reagan said government is not the solution to the problem, it is the problem? Well, guess what, Joe Biden and big government? They have come here, and it's now our problem in every aspect of our life.
This segment was one of the more honest segments from Fox. This is remarkably honest. And I love this because I want to have this debate. I want to have this conversation, and I want it to be real. I want the Democrats to embrace the New Deal era. And listen, if Brian Kilmeade is going to be honest and upfront and say, I endorse the Reagan era, great, let's have this debate. Let's have this discussion, because the left is going to win it every single time. Every single time. Because the New Deal era had phenomenal upsides to it. You had post-World War II, post the Great Depression, because of the New Deal, because of unionization, because of the government, we had the golden age of economic expansion. And this was at a time when the top marginal tax rate was between 70 and 93%. Even under Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican, that top marginal tax rate was 93%. So I've been waiting to have this debate for a long time, man. I've been waiting for it. And the thing I love about the right-wing reaction to it is there is no real reaction. They just say stuff to try to scare you, even though the stuff is not scary. So he's like, there's $1.9 trillion stimulus that Biden did. Ridiculous. Yeah, except what you didn't tell people is that it has over a 70% approval rating. You didn't say that part. Weird. So you're attacking the stimulus, scaremongering over the price tag, but you don't point out it's actually wildly popular. Because that money, a lot of that money, is going towards bailing out people's pensions, for example, which saves the day. The stimulus checks, which saves the day. Vaccine distribution, which saves the day. I have issues with it. There should have been a $15 minimum wage in there and $2,000 checks. There wasn't. But why would you? You're attacking something that's phenomenally popular. Then he tries to fearmonger over. Now they're going to do a $3 trillion infrastructure bill. Ha! Trump said repeatedly he wanted to do infrastructure. You didn't have anything to say against him when he said that. Now, he didn't do it. But the idea infrastructure is bad. Why is that a bad thing? Our infrastructure used to get a grade of D+. Recently, they upgraded it to like a C. But what, you don't want our infrastructure to get an A++? You don't want it to be the #1 infrastructure in the world? I guess you don't want America to be great. I guess you don't want us to be #1 in the world. I guess you'd rather us have a crumbling infrastructure. So you can say, oh, we saved money and we watched after the debt and the deficit. Then he talks about blowing up the filibuster. That would be amazing. Call me crazy, but I think that 51 votes should win in a body of 100. That's called democracy. Listen, I'll take the reform of the filibuster where they got to do the talking filibuster, but leaving it as is insane. It's minority rule all day long. So he's in favor of minority rule, which is by definition undemocratic, just to be clear. And then he says Biden's going to attack the Second Amendment. What, with mild reforms like universal background checks and assault weapons ban and still leaving millions and millions of guns in this country? Are you out of your mind, you hyperbolic moron? That part is totally dishonest. It is. That's totally dishonest the way they tell you, oh, he's attacked the Second Amendment. Nonsense. It's called basic regulation. And then finally, the best part, he brings up LBJ and FDR to scare you. But God, these presidents, FDR is ranked as one of the best presidents in U.S. history. But he's like, it's going to be like FDR. Ridiculous. You're giving Biden credit here. You don't even realize it. He brings up this quote from FDR. This nation is asking for action and action now. Yeah, that's true. It was true then. It's true now. I don't know if you noticed, we have a pandemic and we have a depression. Nearly 40% of people can't pay their housing bill. We have over $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. Nearly 80% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that was pre-COVID. The top 1% has stolen $47 trillion from the bottom 90% from 1974 until today. You're making our case for us. He brings up the LBJ quote, ours is a time of rapid and fantastic change. Yeah. He brings up the Great Society and the New Deal as if, like, obviously this was negative. He actually admits they established Social Security and redid the banking system, and he acts like that's bad. Son, have you ever seen a poll? Social Security is probably the most popular program in the entire country, maybe only behind Medicare. I'm not sure which is number one. But direct cash to old people so they don't live horrendous lives. Who's against that? Well, we have our answer. You're against that. You're against that. And listen, like I said, I want to have this debate every day. I'll debate you all day, every day on this stuff. I'll point to FDR. I'll point to the Scandinavian model. You know, it's called the government taking care of the basics. Every developed country has taxes. What do you want your taxes going towards? You want it to go towards endless war and bailouts for Wall Street and subsidies to ExxonMobil? I don't. My taxes I want to go towards healthcare for everybody, college for everybody, paid vacation time, things of that nature, higher wages. That's what I want it going towards. So again, I want to have this debate, son. Let's debate it all day long. Let's talk about the New Deal era versus the Reagan era. Let's do it. Let's talk about his deregulation and tax cuts for the wealthy. Blew a giant hole in the debt and the deficit, gave all the money to the rich people, deregulated, which led to a crash down the road. This is not a difficult one. This is actually really clear and really obvious. And he's trying to make Biden look bad, but he accidentally makes Biden look worse. So here's the unfortunate ending to this segment, which is Biden's not as good as LBJ or FDR. He's not. Biden is 80% Ronald Reagan, 20% FDR, or if I want to be more kind, 70% Ronald Reagan, 30% FDR. He still buys into the neoliberal corporatist worldview, which is why all of his major policies to this point and continuing forward are sort of like splitting the difference, and they're, you know, one-time shots. It's not a recurring payment. It's a one-time direct check. So these things are not, he's not in favor of a public option. He's not in favor of Medicare for all. He's in favor of expanding the Affordable Care Act. So he's still accepting the premise of neoliberal corporatism, and he's trying to do as much within that context and those confines as possible. But he ain't no FDR. He ain't no social democrat. He ain't no New Dealer. I wish he was.